demand change based on a level of applied faith. Strength grows out of struggle.
My point is, if you are not involved in politics, regardless of what the situation, there is always a chance of forming a movement or starting a movement or joining a movement or creating an ideology within a movement so that it will checkmate politics and make it happen. If an election is held today, let's call a spade a spade. If Nigeria holds an election today and everything works, everything is fair and square, so okay, go out there and vote. There'll be no rigging, nothing. Obi will win that election again. Everybody knows that. But the only reason he won't win it is because we don't have enough activists, from a civic point of view, from a political point of view, from a citizen's point of view, to uphold the narrative that these things are wrong. I started off by saying, even here, we have the new Nigerian movement. What is the purpose? We don't care. I don't care what party you belong. As long as you want a better Nigeria, that is what works for me. If you like, join whatever kind of thing you do, as long as in your heart, genuinely you want a better Nigeria by doing the right thing, because politics doesn't define the individual. Political party doesn't define the individual. It's just something they want to do to get to power. Now, if you plug in from a civic point of view, right, you begin to see things differently. But we haven't reached there, my brother. We have not reached there. I'm not saying this because we have a long way to go. I'm saying this because this is what is happening at this point in time. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, it makes mad sense for me. But okay, so to hope I understand. So that means we they push towards something like maybe they go on now for Senegal, because I just see a news say the current opposition for Senegal, they push closer to winning the presidential election according to their polls. So we they push in a way where we say the citizens now go they more involved in politics to fit call out for justice in case they rig the next election and something like that. They try to.
The citizens in Senegal are moving towards civic activism, not necessarily politics. That's why it's working for them. They like that guy. What's his name? Diomaye, I think. Everybody likes him. So even people who are not in his party are pushing for him because they like him. So they are active. They've activated themselves and said, "This is who we want. This is what is happening." That is where we were with Peter Obi until INEC did their thing, right? But even after INEC did their thing, if we as citizens had risen up, if you notice, it was only the obedient movement and maybe Labour Party that was really pushing. If citizens had really pushed for this nonsense or continue pushing up to today, I would say things would have been different. Things would have been different. But like I said, we'll get there. We will get there because when it comes to things like this, things wake up, things rise. Activism is a normal thing in every civilized society. Nigeria's democracy, don't forget, it has been truncated over the last 30 years. Military rule will come, destabilize everybody will start again. Another one will come, destabilize everybody will start. So we've been starting again until 1990. When we read 1999, when we kicked off again in 1999, what happened? Those old people, this is a struggle. So it's the old remnants of people who were there before. They are the ones who started doing things. This is why you have Emilokon levels today. One man will come out and say it's his turn in a democracy because he knows what they planted even before 1996. But if you look at it now, why is this thing fresh? Why do we believe in new Nigeria? Because the old guard is failing. They're all going. So it's the last level of criminality that we're seeing. But if the last level of criminality is what we're seeing, so the Nigerian youth has to realize that this is the old thing fading away. So how do I start empowering myself to know about politics, to know about activism, to know about political activism? How do I start to do that? But there you go. You have a man that is showcasing everything right in front of you. You have a gentleman who is relatively young in comparison. He's traveling the country, uniting people. So you start by pushing what is right. You start by doing what is right. It's easy to change Nigeria because other countries have done it. Some countries use force, like China, they use force. Some countries just use common sense, like Rwanda. Rwanda wake up one morning, within 10 days, they've almost lost 1 million. Sorry, between 100 days, they've almost lost 100 of their citizens. When they decided that we have to stop this war, what did they do? The first thing they did was, oh yeah, if I'm going to talk to you, don't tell me whether you're Hutsi or Tutsi. Just talk to me as a Rwandan. I don't want to know where you're from. They put that crisis management in there. So I'm talking to you on the street. I'm like, this country is getting easier. What can we do? What can we do? I don't want to know whether you are Hutsi or Tutsi. I don't know whether you're Christian or Muslim. That way they built the country up to now. It's one of the most interesting places to visit in Africa. This is a country that we're watching in Nigeria. We're watching the war in Nigeria when I was young.
Exactly now exactly why people like me, where they reason like me, they push for a secular Nigeria, where it be say things like religion and tribalism go dey your personal head. For instance, our constitution still dey recognize religion. Now, why we go get a government where they openly support missionary work, Hajj, and the rest, but we not get government where they focused on sponsoring things like research, innovation. So they see boys where they create new things for streets. I know boys from my old way, they one small. I know the way they say they play with things, but now everybody they do G. Nobody want even no. Anyhow, sure.
No, but that is the vision of hope we're talking about. If you say, okay, let's talk about frustration, we'll be here all day now. We'll talk about the frustrating things. But at some point, we have to anchor on what can work. At some point, we have to talk about vision. We have to talk about purpose. We have to talk about certain factors. But the question that always arises in that constitution, do we even have an alternative yet? I asked the lawyer the same question a couple of weeks ago. 150 lawyers come out of Nigeria every year. So that means in 10 years, you have about 1.something million lawyers, Abi. Every year you have 150 lawyers. So you mean, even if it's 1 year, lawyers come together, 1% of those lawyers come together and say, let's draft a constitution that will work. Even if it's not implemented, but let it be ready to go in case the right government comes in place. Because constitutions are not drafted in one day. If Peter Obi enters today, he will still have to work with the constitution at hand, unless he has drafted another one. And I would not be surprised if those guys have drafted one waiting for him, if somebody has. And then they will give that constitution to, civic organizations, civic group. And this is where a group like the Obedient Movement should position itself for those kind of great things to happen. Because if a constitution come out, it is part of a civil rights group, right, to even probe that constitution. As long as it's a recognized civil rights group, it's part of its duty to probe the constitution, to probe policies, because they would have legislative members. They would have members in all these places anyway. For instance, if I say I'm a member of the new Black Panther, for instance, this new one in America now, if I'm a member of the new Black Panther and I'm a Muslim, yeah, but I'm a member of the Congress. So when I get there as a Black Panther person and as a Muslim, if I see something in there that is not right, regardless of my religion, I will say it's not right because I belong to that movement. But you see what I mean, my bro? We have not reached that level. It's not like we are not pushing. We have simply not reached that level. But we will get to that level as long as we plan it and think about it. So what you're doing is right. You have to continue what you're doing because Rome was not built in one day. If you put 10 guys like you now, maybe it's only 2 of you thinking like that. But in another 5 years, it will be 6 of you thinking like that. So you will surpass the ones who are not thinking like that. That's just how it will have to work. Other than that, if we give up, then there's a problem. But we can't.
Demand change based on a level of applied faith. Strength grows out of struggle.